All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Bridge, where I interview and feature women identifying non-binary, gender-expansive people who play jazz. Today, I have the amazing Hillai Govreen, who plays clarinet and saxophone. Hi, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Yeah. Can you please let us know how you started playing jazz? What got you interested?
Jazz or music in general? Because
First music and then jazz.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I started playing piano when I was almost 6, and I had this very, very good teacher. She was a musicologist, doctorate, like PhD, and her name was Tanya Kozlov, and she always spoke to me like I'm an adult, even when I was 6, and would really get deep into music. So that was my first really exposure to music. And then a year later, when I was 7, there was this other teacher at my school. He was a parent of one of the kids, and he started this Arab and Jewish ukulele orchestra.
That's cool.
And his name is Paul Moore. He's British, and he had this Dixieland band, and he built his own instruments from garbage. So he's a very unique individual,
creative sound artist.
Yeah. And I think that was he's completely self-taught. So I had those two strong influences as a kid that were very different from each other. It's one very knowledgeable pianist and musicologist, and then the self-taught ukulele, banjo singer, play the kazoo, and made a bathtub into a bass. He'd do all these crazy stuff. And yeah, and then also through that project, I played ukulele, and we learned, he taught us all these songs Ain't Misbehaving, Sweet Georgia Brown, All of Me, stuff like that. So I guess that was when I was a kid. And then I continued with that, and then at some point I signed up to the conservatory because I wanted to play a wind instrument, and I wanted to play the bassoon.
Oh wow.
And my hands weren't big enough because they were you need to wrap your hands over the bassoon.
Right.
And they had this thing where if you study bassoon, then you can study for free, or
oh wow,
because nobody wants to do it.
Right. Wow.
Or if you move to bassoon from a different instrument, you get 40%. You pay 40% of the cost.
Oh my God, music students pay attention.
In Kfar Saba, anyway, that's how it was. But then I couldn't play the bassoon, so I wanted the saxophone, and then the teacher didn't have any available slots, and they needed clarinetists in the orchestra, so they were well, here's a clarinet, play that.
Oh wow.
And I didn't really like it at first, but I preferred, it was either clarinet or oboe. And I didn't really know the instrument. I listened on YouTube just to see, and I was I think I like the clarinet better than the oboe, so I just started with that. And I had this Russian teacher, Misha. He was also a very good teacher. He played in the Israeli opera orchestra.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then so that's how I got into clarinet. And then I played in a few orchestras, chamber groups, in the conservatory, and it was socially, I think it was fun because it was we'd play with friends, and we went abroad a few times, and it was just it was a hang. You'd come to the conservatory and just hang there all day.
That's awesome.
Play music. I kind of miss those days.
Yeah.
That was life.
Right.
Yeah. And and my school was really close to the conservatory, so I'd often just we'd I don't know, climb the fence, go to the conservatory. But I always wanted to play saxophone too, and then my clarinet teacher was well, you can't play saxophone. If you're going to play saxophone, it's going to ruin your embouchure, and you'll never be able to be a good clarinetist. He was very...
Wow.
But then at some point, because I really did like that instrument, and I listened to a lot of saxophone players, and then at some point my dad plays tenor saxophone, like as a hobby.
Oh, cool.
But at some point I just took his instrument and started playing it. I think when I moved to New York, I took the instrument and I came here.
Oh, wow. Wow, what a great escape instrument to have.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how I got into saxophone, and now I play mainly clarinet and saxophone.
I see.
Yeah.
That's super cool. How did you get into playing jazz?
Jazz, well, my cousin is a great bass player, plays jazz, and my brother plays guitar, also plays jazz. So one of my best friends, she doesn't really play jazz trombone anymore, but at the time she was. So I think they exposed me to a lot of that, and I think it was more like I didn't really find myself in the classical world. Like I could do it, but I wasn't really enjoying it as much as I wanted to. Like playing in an orchestra, I often felt like I'm just like kind of a screw in the system, and I'm just like waiting for the like counting rests, and I'd lose concentration, and then I'd get lost, and I was looking for something that's where I'd have like more self-expression and more also control, but also lack of control, where I'm like improvising, and then I think that's how I got into jazz. It wasn't really like I didn't really know a lot about it, and then slowly, you know, through friends, through people I played with, and also I signed up to the New School affiliate program in Israel, Striker. So over there, the people there were already really good at jazz. So when I got there, I learned a lot from them and from some teachers there, like Danny Rosenfeld. He's like a trumpet player. He used to live here, and a drummer, and other great teachers. So.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And did you? When did you come to New York and continue the jazz experience?
I came. I think I was 20. I did. So I got out of the army when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was there for 5 weeks, and then I did the 2 years in Israel, and then when I finished that, I came here. And I have a citizenship, so I just got on a plane, came here, and then I found a job in the cinema at BAM.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Which is cool because that, like through that, I got into other stuff and met other people. But and then I auditioned to the New School when I was here, because in Israel I didn't get enough of a scholarship, and then I auditioned here again, and then I started studying here at the New School for 2 years. Yeah, so age 20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
I remember
great.
because I couldn't go into bars.
Wow.
They didn't let me in.
Right.
And in Israel it said you can drink at age 18.
Right.
So I was like,
What's going on?
Why can't I get a beer?
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, that's great. So I guess this is segueing into my next question is, what is your practice routine like? Like, what are things that you practice every day? Do you have a warm-up routine, or just what inspires you to practice?
That's a good question. I think my practice routine keeps changing. Often like depending on like what I want to work on. And I wish it was a little bit more structured at this point, but I think like the main thing that I'm always practicing is like I'm trying to find things that I'm not good at yet and I want to be better at. So sometimes I think like actually like with routines I could sometimes like get into a routine where I'm practicing things but I can already do them. I'm trying to find like the next thing that I can't do yet.
Right.
And in terms of a warm up, I have all these warm ups that some of them like kind of are influenced by things that I learned from other people. I mean, specifically Chris Cheek has like some. He was telling me like, this is something that I found that enables me to warm up in a short amount of time, so I can afterwards. Like he really timed everything, and he was like, well, I can warm up in like 15-20 minutes if I don't have that much time, and then I can work on any. So that's like things with sound, articulation, like long tones, things like that I do, and then anything I do, I really try to do it in a way that's musical and that's still interesting for me to do. So like instead of playing a scale just like up and down, I'll make myself like certain laws that I need to do within the scale, and then I'll play them for a while, and if there's something like I'm getting stuck on or is hard, so I'll just do that. So like sort of isolating the parts that are difficult, as opposed to just like going up and down. I could show it to you after.
Right. Yeah. That's super cool. That's amazing. Yeah. And it sounds like there's a lot of improvisation that's happening in your warm-up routine as a result.
Yeah, I think it is structures, but within the structure I'll like enable it. Like I'll give myself like limitations of like, okay, I'm only allowed to jump in, I don't know, in like half steps or whole steps,
right.
But then whenever I get stuck, I'll stay there, so I'm just isolating that part.
That's cool.
Yeah, that way it's still like you're practicing things like scales or sound or whatever, but it's still interesting.
Yeah.
Or like if you're practicing sound, like playing a ballad, doing stuff so it's like always sounds like music to some degree. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah. And how do you practice time? Everyone feels time differently, so I'm curious to hear how you practice time.
Oh, interesting. Time is a big word. I think like within time there's feel, there's just so much. But I recently started learning drums with a friend.
Wow. Cool.
I got really excited. I bought this drum set, and then now I can't. I'm trying to sell it. If anybody here hears this interview and wants to buy
drum set for sale,
mediocre drum set, but so that's been really interesting to me because it started out with I was just trying to understand better what the drummer is doing in the band, because I often didn't really understand.
Sure.
And it actually really influenced, I think, the way I think of time and the way of, because it's like you're actually playing time on drums, and also feeling the different, the off beats and the downbeats, and like coordination with the limbs that I find really difficult to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Or like learning a groove and finding like all the different parts of it and the different limbs and hitting different drums. And of course I don't have any technique to do that, so that's been like I think helping me with time just generally with any instrument I play, but also like one of the things I like to do is if there's somebody's like time feel that I really like, I'll try to imitate it. Like I love like Herbie Hancock's time feel, like Chick Corea, or just like even just trying to notice it with players that I like. Because especially I think with horn players, there's some horn players where you can hear them and it's almost like they don't need a rhythm section because their time is so solid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, Freddie Hubbard or Cannonball is like that. Like where you could just hear, it's like they're already a whole band just by playing. So I think maybe I should try doing that where I'm just like playing an instrument and just trying to be very like rhythmically convincing.
Yeah. I mean, that's funny that you say that. Like during quarantine, during the first year, that's something I had to do all the time. Just playing on guitar, just playing by yourself because there was no one else to play with. Yeah. But I felt like when I came out of that, my time was much stronger out of that. So That's such a great idea.
Yeah, and then also I think playing with people with good time really
For sure.
helps, because then you can hear. And it's a lot of it I think is like you could have good time, but then in terms of the feel, it's also some of it is like how you manipulate the time, like how if you have the tools to like be ahead of the beat or a little bit behind the beat, or like I like it when some people can play stuff that's like it sounds like they're kind of a little lost, but then
they're right back in on the one.
go back in.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I'd like to get better at doing stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then another thing that I like doing sometimes is, I don't remember who showed, I think a few people showed me this. I think one of them is Anata Cohen. I took a few lessons with her.
Cool.
And she puts the metronome on like a really low number, so it hits every, I don't know, like 2 bars or... And then you have this like block of time that's a little larger, and then it's like, okay, how do you fill this time?
Right.
Because you don't have to just like play really like 8th notes or 16th notes. It could be more like fluid, but then it's still trying to be with that. So she does that, and then she was showing me like how she does arpeggios and stuff. She practices that with metronome on a very low number, and then every time she'll like subdivide it in a different way, and like triplets, quintuplets, all kinds of things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Talking to her, I was like, I should do this.
That's great. Hey, it's giving me a lot of practice ideas too. When you're playing with musicians or when you're putting a band together, what qualities are you looking for when you're putting a band together?
I think I'm learning this the hard way of like having a lot of things that I do not really work out the way I want to. But I think recently I've been thinking about like how the personal element is important. Like especially for me, I need to feel like I can completely trust the people I'm playing with and feel comfortable around them, which is like regardless of the way they play, just the way they are as people.
Sure.
And also have people who can take whatever material I'm bringing and find their own way of interpreting it, and are not just like locked into what's on
the page.
The page,
yeah.
So because I think it's nice if everybody can really be themselves and bring themselves into the music. So slowly I think I'm finding more people like that. But I don't know, I've been writing a lot of music and I'm still looking for
That's great.
people that I really want to play with.
That's awesome. And this leads to my next question is, what inspires you to compose, and what have you been writing lately?
What inspires me to compose? I think when I hear something that I really like, my default is like, okay, I want to figure out what this is and try to do something that's, I mean, not the same, but like that takes elements that I like out of that, and it could be any music that I hear, and so that's often like I'll hear something and then I'm just like, okay, what is this? And then if it's like a progression that I like, or if it's a rhythmic thing, or I'll try to like kind of use that, or even if it's more abstract than that, if it's like, I don't know, something just made me feel a certain way or brought me back to a certain time in my life, and then I'm just like, well, what is that, and how can I do that? Or sometimes I'll just have an idea and start right. Usually it's like in the middle of the night and I'm tired and I should go to sleep and then I wake up, I have an idea, I start playing around with it, and so I have a lot of like unfinished things at the moment that I just started and didn't really finish, But then I also have this project that I was arranging with a friend for like a larger ensemble. So it was with like strings and woodwinds and a rhythm section, and we were arranging all this music, a lot of it by Toninho Horta and other Brazilian musicians.
That's cool.
And that was, we worked on that together and on a duet project together, and then it was interesting, like composing with another person or arranging with another person, orchestrating. So I think those projects kind of got me to be a little bit better at arranging and orchestrating. But in terms of like composition, it's often I don't know, I think I just need to do it more, because now it's like sporadic. I just wake up with an idea, I start writing it, then I'll like record it or sing it to the phone, then I forget about it, I move to the next thing, and I don't really, I want to try to like complete things more.
Yeah, that's kind of
hard.
That's very reminiscent of my process too. If I'll have ideas, I'll sing them into my phone, and oftentimes it'll be like a year later and be like, oh, that was a great idea, I should return to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's amazing just to be able to capture it in the moment, that you have your phone by your side at like 2 a.m. and you have that melody, and then you capture that, because you never know what it could turn into, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and that everybody kind of hears different things, and you have like we could just, you come up with different ideas, and it's interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to play a clip of you playing. Can you introduce this clip?
So this is from a recent gig in Portland with George Cables, who I learned a lot from, and it's a tune of his called it's not the whole thing, but it's just a few minutes of a tune called Circle, from the album Circle, and I really like this tune. Like I wish it was recorded more, because it's just like in this solo album, and then there's another version with Bobby Hutcherson, but it's really a beautiful tune.
Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and cue it up. Here we go. That was awesome. That was so cool. That must have been. You guys play along so well. I love the feeling of time that you guys have with each other. And tell me a little bit more about playing that show and playing this piece.
Oh, so it was interesting. Like George Cables was one of my favorite musicians, and I was playing at Smalls one night, and this guy comes up to me, and we started talking about music, and then he's like, there aren't that many like clarinet players, and there's this album of like George Cables and Art Pepper, actually like 2 albums, and there's a song Going Home, like maybe we could do a tribute to that, and he owns a venue in Portland. And then it's like we started talking, and I got excited about it, and then he booked us this gig in Portland, and then George was telling me like, oh, let's get together like twice maybe before the gig, and then I started like going to his house like on a weekly basis I just had such a fun time playing with him. Like I'd come, play for like 4 hours, and and then it became like we were just playing his music, because he was like, you know what, I wrote this composition, or like I'd come up and I'd tell him, like, I really like this piece, let's play it, and he even like forgot he wrote it because it was in the 70s.
Oh my God, wow.
And yeah, it was really, really special, and we started like having all this repertoire together, and then at the end we played two sets of music. It was mostly his compositions, and I also, a lot of them like I didn't know before, so I had to really like listen to them a lot and get into his head a little bit, because it's a lot of them are really hard to play, like different like harmonic stuff going on, and also I think it took time for the time to kind of gel together, but it was at some point it was already like the more you play with somebody, you get to know them better, and
totally.
It was just a really fun experience, and I learned a lot from that. And also, like, if you were talking about time, like his time is amazing, because he's always like also very like much pushing forward.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I was like, he'll play like a lot in like a short amount of time, and then it kind of gives you this feeling where it's like going forward. It's like really cool.
That's awesome. That's very, very cool. Tell us what's coming up. What are you doing right now, and anything, any shows or recordings that you're working on?
Yeah. Well, I have a gig in ornithology. It's like one of my favorite spots to play in, May 3rd.
Cool.
With a quartet featuring one of my teachers from New School, Steve Cardenas, a really good guitar player and musician. And yeah, so I'm excited to do that show. And also I started playing in the park a lot, because now the weather is nicer.
Oh yeah.
So
totally.
With 2 great musicians, Ben and Ian, we play. I think it's like 86th and Central Park, so we're there a lot.
Oh, cool.
It's fun.
What times are usually there? for the audience to know.
Yeah, I think like noon.
Okay.
We have noon. Yeah, if you want to come sing a song with us, play a song with us. So that's been fun, because I'm also like learning new songs through that. And at some point I'd like to record. I'm just still in the process of writing and of figuring out the instrumentation and the what I envision in my head. Like I need to solidify that a little bit more.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So what are you passionate? Do you have any things that you're passionate outside of music?
Definitely, yes.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I love hiking. Like I love being outdoors and in nature, which is like one of the hardest things for me about New York. But there's like beautiful areas in New York State, just like when you get out of the city. So I love hiking. I love reading books, watching movies. Like that's one of the. I mean, when I started working at BAM, that was one of the things I discovered that I really love film, and some of my friends there showed me all these like movies that I wasn't familiar with, like specifically Paul Thomas Anderson and other filmmakers that I really like. Hiking, movies, photography. I haven't done that for a while, but like I like film photography. A friend of mine like taught me how to develop film at home, and we were doing that for a while, which was really fun. What other hobbies or things that interest me? I'm sure there are others too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Those are all awesome. And I like to end all my interviews with this last question: is what's a fun perfect day for you? What does that look like?
Fun perfect day. It's a tricky question. I think. Wow, I'm not sure if I know how to answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But maybe I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Still figuring that out.
Yeah, still figuring that
So
out.
that's okay. Totally great.
I don't have any fun and perfect days.
I mean, that's a very wise thing to say. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming, Hillai. This was amazing.
Thank you for having me. It was
yeah.
so nice talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can people find you online to learn more about you?
I have a website. I'll update now and then. Where else? All the evil social media.
Right. Yeah. So people can find you at your website?
My website or Facebook, Instagram, all those
all those places.
all those
All right.
virtual evil places.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Hillai, for coming. Really appreciate this. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to The Bridge. I'm Lisa Liu, and catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.